Every family comes from a root. The roots of this family stretched back centuries to rugged mountainous villages and small towns. They were a strong, respected family whose voice carried weight in society. The family was known not only for its wealth, but also for its intelligence and agility. Mansions, farms, and rare treasures all were associated with their name. But this fortune came at a price. Though no one could see it at first glance, the inheritance itself had silently approached the family like a shadow. This legacy, passed down through generations, also carried the secrets that one day would bring ruin to the family. Now take a deep breath and witness the story of this centuries-old family slowly rising on the stage of history.
Every family has a root. Every family has a past, a beginning, a birth, a small yet quiet story. This family was no different. Its origins stretched back centuries to rugged mountain villages and valleys covered with rocky soil. At first, perhaps no one could have even imagined the influence they would one day hold. A small stone house, a life surrounded by a few fields, a handful of animals. This was how the family began, simple yet quietly unfolding their life. Over time, this family became known not only in their own village, but also in the surrounding towns. When people heard their name, they remembered not just their wealth, but also their intelligence, agility, and respect within society. Every morning, with the first rays of sunlight, the family members would quietly carry out their responsibilities. The chirping of birds in the gardens, the movements of animals in the barns, the echo of footsteps in the stone house, all slowly reflected the family's discipline and order.
Mansions, estates surrounded by wide stone walls, shaded by centuries-old trees. Each one was a silent symbol representing the family's name and power. Every room, every window, every stone wall was quiet, as if whispering stories of the past. Garden paths, paved with stones, would disappear slightly in the morning mist, reminding every step of the family's history. And of course, the treasures. Some objects were not only carriers of wealth, but also of the family's history and secrets. Ancient jewels, precious stones, centuries-old manuscripts, family documents, all were passed down from generation to generation like a binding thread, constantly reminding the family of its identity. Every piece was a silent reminder of the past. Every touch carried whispers accumulated over centuries. But wealth had a price. No one could see it at first glance. The inheritance had approached the family like a silent shadow. Its effects, initially unnoticed, like a gentle breeze, gradually became more pronounced. This legacy, passed down through generations, carried not only wealth, but also the secrets that would one day bring ruin to the family. Decisions that seemed innocent at first cast long shadows over the family in time. Small disagreements, unnoticed jealousy, quiet anger, hidden enmities, all made their presence felt like a hidden power within the inheritance. As time passed, the family members began to realize the presence of this shadow, but it was too late. The legacy, silent and patient, had slowly begun to exert its influence across generations. Now take a deep breath, relax, close your eyes, and quietly witness the story of this centuries-old family rising on the stage of history. Every stone wall, every ancient tree, every echo of footsteps in silent rooms is a quiet whisper from the family's past. The rustling of leaves in the wind, the creaking of doors, the soft trickle of water from a nearby well, all are the silent echoes of years flowing beneath the family's shadow. As you step into this family's world, you embark on a slow journey not only through wealth and power, but also through secrets, disasters, and the silent shadows that have drifted over generations. Every breath, every pause, every silence draws you deeper into the story. This is not just a family story. It is the story of a curse spanning centuries, a silent and hidden inheritance. Chapter 2: The Emergence of the Cursed Inheritance. As generations passed, the family continued to preserve its wealth and power. The mansion still stood strong, and the trees in the gardens slowly reached toward the sky. But the inheritance was no longer just a name for treasure. It had become a silent, shadow-like presence. The first signs appeared in small events, where time quietly and subtly exerted its influence. At first, they were just minor coincidences, mysterious sounds from the rooms of the mansions, objects disappearing in the gardens at night, slight unease felt by family members with no clear explanation. At first, no one realized there was any meaning behind them, but the shadows were quiet, patient, and slowly began to take effect. The first serious impact of the curse carried by the inheritance came from the family's youngest child. That morning, as the sun was still rising, there was an eerie silence in the child's room. Instead of a small laugh, a subtle tension could be felt. When the father entered the room following his usual morning routine, he noticed the child holding an old, worn piece of jewelry. It was part of the inheritance, quietly, as if it had appeared on its own. But at that moment, no one knew that this small and seemingly insignificant incident was the first link in a chain that would affect the family for years to come.
Over time, small cracks grew. Disagreements began among siblings. At first quiet, unnoticed jealousy slowly transformed into open conflict. Every argument opened the door to another secret hidden in the shadow of the inheritance. Voices echoing through mansion halls, mysterious shadows wandering the corridors at night, inexplicable fears felt by family members toward one another, all revealed the silent power of the inheritance. One day, the family's eldest member, reviewing documents accumulated over years, discovered an old letter. The letter came from a very distant ancestor and contained a warning that no one had ever known. This inheritance carries not only wealth, but also a curse. Be cautious. Do not underestimate the silent shadow. But time had already passed. The curse had begun to show its effects, slow but inevitable. The old stones of the mansions, the rustling of leaves in the gardens, the whistling of the wind, all were signs of a silent presence, watching and waiting. In each new generation, family members began to hear the quiet whispers of the inheritance. No one knew when or how it would begin, yet its presence was always felt. The calamities brought by the inheritance began to diversify. Minor accidents, mild illnesses, unexplained losses. At first glance, they seemed like coincidences, yet each incident left a new mark on the family's history. Like a silent chain, each generation was linked to the previous one. Each event foreshadowed the next disaster. The mansions had become the center, not only of wealth, but also of the curse.
family member sometimes could no longer recognize their own shadows. On some nights, footsteps echoed in the corridors, yet no one was visible. Doors opened by themselves. Old furniture shifted slightly. Unknown stains appeared on the walls. Silence itself now felt like a threat. And so, the cursed inheritance continued to exert its influence silently and patiently across generations. Small events gradually transformed into great disasters. Each family member, whether aware or not, had begun to live under the shadow of the inheritance. The silent shadow was no longer just a warning. It had become a part of life itself. Now, take a deep breath. Relax. Close your eyes and witness the family's life under the slowly descending shadow. Every detail, every minor event is a silent echo of the curse upon them. Quiet steps, rustlings, fleeting shadows in the dark of night, all serve as reminders of the silent, powerful influence of the inheritance. What we have learned in this chapter is only the beginning. The curse is taking root deeper, enveloping the family more tightly. In the years to come, the power of this cursed inheritance will shape the family entirely, sometimes leading to disasters, sometimes to tragic events. The silent shadow still waits patiently, and with every step, whether we notice it or not, history repeats itself. Chapter 3: The Generational Calamities and Tragedies of the Family. As time passed, the cursed inheritance had ceased to be merely a name or a symbol. It had become a tangible force, moving slowly and heavily over the family. Each generation began to feel the influence of this legacy in different ways. Some fell ill quietly, while others were tested by minor accidents and misfortunes. At first, these incidents went unnoticed, but over time, they linked together like a chain, quietly shaping the family's life. In the mansions, the gardens, and the stone-walled homes, daily routines continued, yet the shadows had grown more distinct. On some nights, when no one was in the rooms, the echo of footsteps could be heard from distant corridors. Children shivered slightly in their sleep, and the rustle of the wind sounded like a warning in their ears. A silent, unseen, but ever-present force enveloped the family, watching over every movement. Throughout generations, the curse of the inheritance revealed itself through small and seemingly insignificant events. Accidents that appeared ordinary at first, unexpected illnesses slowly unsettled the family members. A child would fall while playing and sustain a minor injury. A young person would lie in bed due to an unexpected sickness. No one could perceive that these incidents were not mere coincidences. Yet history quietly repeated the same pattern again and again. The fathers, mothers, grandmothers, and grandfathers of the family all waged their own subtle battles against the shadow of the inheritance. Small arguments, quiet jealousies, occasional silent but intense outbursts of anger. Each was a quiet mark of the curse. Without realizing it, the family accumulated conflicts and tragedies. Each generation inherited the mistakes, resentments, and secrets of the one before. And each loss, each pain, cast a new shadow for the next generation. Rooms in the mansions grew empty. Some were abandoned altogether. A quiet wind blew through the gardens, the rustling leaves recalling secrets long hidden. On some nights,
family members looked at each other and felt an unexplainable shiver, a silent fear deep within their hearts. The influence of the cursed inheritance was not limited to physical events. The inner life of the family was also shaped. People became more cautious with one another. Trust gradually diminished, and silent anger and resentment accumulated over generations, formed an invisible wall within the family. No one could perceive how high that wall had grown, yet with every step, every breath, a silent weight was felt. Some tragedies eventually became legends. A young man lost his life in an accident whose cause he would never understand. Another child was confined to bed by an unexpected illness. Household items broke or disappeared for reasons no one could explain. The walls of the mansions seemed to record these events silently. Every crack, every creaking board was a quiet echo of the curse.
Each generation, under the influence of the curse, began to live more carefully and cautiously. But no matter how much effort was made, the shadow of the inheritance never disappeared. A silent, patient, and ever-present force followed the family through the generations, and with every step, every moment of silence, the curse deepened, growing stronger with time. Now take a deep breath, relax, close your eyes, and witness the family's silent, shadow-filled life. Every detail, every small tragedy serves as a reminder of the inheritance's quiet and powerful influence. The silent steps, the cold wind felt in the darkness of night, the faint creaking from the rooms, all are the quiet echoes of the cursed inheritance's generational impact. What we have learned in this chapter is only the beginning. The power of the curse will envelop the family even more deeply. Silent calamities will escalate into greater tragedies, and this slow but inevitable shadow will continue to shape the family's fate. Chapter 4: The family's final generation and the full impact of the curse. The curse, which had silently flowed through the centuries, had now fully reached the family's final generation. The small accidents, unexplained losses, and hidden conflicts that had appeared in previous generations had now transformed into great and irreversible disasters. The mansion still stood. Stone walls, centuries-old trees, and silent gardens held all the secrets of the past. But those who lived within now fully felt the true weight of the inheritance. The members of the final generation, unaware of the experiences of their ancestors, tried to live their own lives, yet at every step, every breath, a silent shadow moved above them, issuing warnings. Small household items shifted on their own at night. Unexplained cold drafts wandered through the rooms, and doors gave off faint but sharp knocks. All of this silently but effectively reminded them of the curse's presence. The events in the mansions could no longer be ignored. A young person felt a mysterious shiver as they rose from bed in the morning. Another fell into a hidden hollow while walking in the garden. Some lay in bed with minor illnesses, while others quietly disappeared. The curse had now become fully visible, commanding the family's fate.
The family's final generation grew up entirely under the shadow of the inheritance. Trust among them had diminished, and small secrets and hidden resentments had formed deep cracks. The silent jealousy and anger that had begun in previous generations now erupted into visible conflicts. Whispers that started in quiet rooms led to major arguments and sometimes silent tragedies. One evening, the oldest member of the house once again took in hand the warning letter found years before. This inheritance brings disaster along with wealth. Do not underestimate the silent shadow. The words were still true, even after all these years, but by now, no warning could save them. The curse had silently and patiently shaped the lives of the entire family. The mansions were now empty. The gardens were filled with the sound of wind rustling through silent leaves, and the stone paths disappeared into the darkness of night. On some nights, a silent shadow spread over the entire house, keeping the remaining family members awake. Every breath, every moment of silence reminded them of the curse's presence. And when that moment came, the family had become part of history itself. The curse had fully emerged, shaping the lives of the last members. Wealth had become more of a burden than a blessing. The mansions, gardens, old jewels, and documents all silently recalled the curse, carrying the tragic echoes of the past into the present. Now, take a deep breath and close your eyes. Quietly, slowly, witness the story of the family's final generation. Every detail, every loss, every silence is a concrete manifestation of the curse's power. The family now exists only in memories and in the shadows of stone walls. Every breath, every silence is a quiet echo of history. The curse has silently but irrevocably completed its role on the stage of time.
Chapter 5: The Legends and Final Secrets After the Inheritance. The family's last members had now vanished into the dusty pages of history. The mansions were silent, the stone walls cold and empty. The gardens carried the memories of the past through the rustling of leaves and the soft moan of the wind. Yet the inheritance had not completely disappeared. The silent shadow still roamed over the houses, stone paths, and ancient trees, continuing to carry the whispers of the past. The townspeople remembered the mansions and the family's name, passing down the stories told over the years in hushed tones. What they called the cursed inheritance had become more than just a family matter. It had turned into a legend that enveloped the entire surrounding area. Every whisper, every old stone wall, and every decaying door reminded them of the traces of the curse. But the curse did not remain confined to the physical world. Hidden secrets of the family still existed in documents, old writings, and records. Some letters, when discovered years later, were so real and dark that they sent shivers down the spine. "This inheritance has a price," the lines read, "and the silent shadow still waits." As the legend spread, the effect of the inheritance deepened. Townspeople, visitors to the mansions, and travelers along the old roads moving quietly at night would feel an unexplained shiver. Soft creaks, footsteps echoing from corridors, the wind moaning through the leaves, all were like whispers emerging from the shadows of the past. Occasionally, it seemed as though the stories of the family members who had vanished long ago echoed from the old stone walls. These were not their silent screams, but reminders of the shadow of the inheritance. Every breath, every silence carried a fragment of the past into the present. The inheritance was no longer merely a burden. It had become a legend. People told this legend, recreating the family's drama in their imaginations, feeling the silent shadow in their own lives. This shadow roamed not only the mansions, but also the stone paths, forests, and old fields. Everywhere was a quiet echo of the family's history. Yet the story did not end here. The curse had waited silently across generations, patient and mysterious in its existence. Who knows, perhaps one day, the step of an old traveler, the discovery of a forgotten secret, or an ancient document in the hands of a curious researcher might awaken the curse once more. The silent shadow remained there, patiently waiting, ready to step into new stories. Now, take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Imagine the silent rooms of the mansions, the wind blowing through the gardens, the rustle of the stone paths. Every detail, every silence is a quiet reminder of the power of the curse and the enduring effect of the inheritance throughout history. The story does not end here. It continues its journey through time in new silence and mystery. Chapter 6: The Lost Pieces of the Inheritance and Hidden Secrets. Although the family's final generation was gone, the inheritance had not completely vanished. In the dusty rooms of the mansions, long-forgotten objects, old documents, and precious items still remain. Some pieces, seemingly small or insignificant, were in fact silent extensions of the curse and the legacy. Every object was a quiet reminder of the past. Every page carried a hidden secret. At times, a letter would be discovered tucked between the covers of an old book. At other times, a jewel, thought lost years ago, would appear in the shadow of a stone wall. These pieces did more than recall the past. They quietly opened the door to new stories and old secrets. Each discovery revealed that the family's inheritance was not merely wealth. It was filled with hidden powers and cursed secrets. As you wander through the mansions, keep your eyes on every corner. Every old painting, every cracked wall carries the whispers of the past. Silent footsteps can be heard in the darkness of night. The wind's moan echoes like the quiet voice of the lost pieces. Once, the owners of these items had used, touched, or carried them without understanding their true nature. Now, all these small pieces unveiled the hidden connections woven throughout the family's history.
Some lost pieces held more than material value. They contained secret events that had changed the fate of family members. A small diary, a letter, or an old piece of jewelry carried clues to past tragedies. Each lost piece, quietly but unmistakably, reminded that the curse's influence continued. Thus, the lost pieces of the inheritance, while revealing the secrets of the past, also offered a silent warning to those who discovered them. Power and wealth are never completely safe. Some secrets wait for years, patiently testing new generations. In the mansions, in the gardens, and on the stones of the old paths, this warning still echoed.
Chapter 7: The Silent Observers of the Inheritance and the Whispers of the Townspeople. The family's last members were gone, and the mansion stood empty and silent. Yet the townspeople continued to pass down the story of the family and the curse in hushed whispers over the years. The silent shadow is still there, they would say. The creaking doors, the moaning wind, the old stone paths, everything is an echo of the past. Some townsfolk, passing near the mansions, felt a slight shiver. An unexplained chill would ripple through their bodies. Children, upon hearing the family's name, would pause for a moment, exchanging silent glances, fear faintly reflected in their eyes. Adults recalled the tragedies that had occurred long ago, but no one could fully explain what had truly happened. Curious travelers stepping into the mansions would hear the echo of silent footsteps along the stone corridors and faint rustlings from the old rooms. Doors opened on their own. Old furniture gently shifted, leaving the unsettling feeling that an unseen presence lingered in the rooms. When the townspeople recounted these events, they completed the story with a chilling silence. The cursed inheritance is still here. Some ventured inside the mansions in search of the old items, discovering books, letters, and jewelry long thought lost. Each object was a quiet reminder of the past. Every page whispered that the curse's influence persisted. The townspeople, upon seeing these lost pieces, felt not only the presence of wealth, but also the enduring shadow of the curse. Over time, among the townspeople, the curse had grown into a legend. As the stories were told, the soft sound of the wind or the rustling of leaves accompanied the whispers of the past. Each tale deepened the power of the curse, slowly drawing listeners under its influence. Some observers, visiting the mansions, noticed shadows appearing on the old stone walls and in the gardens. These shadows seemed to carry the memories of previous generations, the traces of lost pieces, and the echoes of silent tragedies. With every step, there was a quiet warning. The curse did not merely observe the family, it watched those around them too, patiently waiting. Chapter 8. Mysterious Events and the Continuing Effects of the Curse. Over the years, the mansions remained silent. The stone walls, gardens, and old paths carried the quiet memories of the family and the curse. Yet the curse persisted within this silence, revealing itself through mysterious occurrences. As townspeople and visitors noticed these events, they began to realize that the curse's influence was not limited to the family alone. At night, faint knocks from the rooms, footsteps echoing through long corridors, and the wind whispering through the leaves were always signs of its presence. No one knew when or where something would happen. Sometimes an old painting would fall on its own, and other times a small object, long thought lost, would mysteriously reappear. Many of these mysterious events were connected to the family's lost pieces and documents. A visitor flipping through an old diary might find strange symbols and unexplainable markings between the pages. Each symbol was a sign of past tragedies and the silent whispers of the curse. Some objects, even years later, left a subtle shiver in anyone who touched them. The townspeople no longer hesitated to speak of these occurrences. Whispers echoed at night. The old stone paths and mansions quietly bore witness. Every observer felt the power of the curse through their own experience, step by step, falling into a quiet mix of fear and curiosity. On some nights, faint lights could be seen in the old gardens, though no one could explain their source. Doors opened and closed by themselves, and ancient chests shifted slightly. These mysterious events within the mansions showed that the curse remained active. The silent shadow continued to wait patiently. The secrets of the past and the lost pieces quietly prepared for future events. Each new event further reinforced the curse's power, extending from the past into the present. Mysterious rustlings, sudden cold gusts, and unexplained footsteps both intrigued and unsettled those who witnessed them. The mansions had become not only the center of the family's history, but also the epicenter of the curse itself. Chapter 9. The Hidden Heirs of the Legacy and Unexpected Prophecies. The family's last members had long vanished. The mansions were silent and empty. Stone walls, gardens, and long corridors carried the memories of the past. Yet the curse persisted like an undying shadow, and certain old documents, lost fragments, and mysterious markings showed that it had not truly ended. Among the townspeople, years later, some young individuals and visitors began discovering old documents and examining them with curiosity. Some found strange symbols within the pages of a diary. Others uncovered unexplained warnings in old letters. These documents quietly foretold a prophecy for the hidden heirs of the curse. The new generations will not pass without feeling the influence of the old shadow.
At first glance, some prophecies seemed like simple warnings. Pay attention to silent steps. Doors will open on their own. The wind will whisper the secrets of the past. But as time went on, the truth of these prophecies became clear. The new generations lived, often unknowingly, under the influence of the curse. Small accidents, unexplained rustlings, and mild illnesses paved the way for the hidden heirs. A young traveler wandering the mansions noticed the location of an old chest on the stone paths. When the chest was opened, it revealed an ancient jewel along with a mysterious message written together. This legacy carries not only wealth, but also the shadow. Be prepared. Even if the young traveler did not fully understand, they felt the weight of these words. The curse had quietly stepped into the lives of the new generation. Some townspeople, wandering near the old mansions late at night, sensed faint lights and subtle shadows. These lights and shadows signaled that the curse was slowly reaching the new heirs, silently preparing them. With every step, with every breath, the curse's influence gradually took shape. And so the curse seeped into new paths, into the lives of new people. Each generation unknowingly absorbed the mistakes and secrets of the past. Each event became part of the long-lasting effect of the curse. The silent shadow continued to wait patiently. The old stone walls, corridors, and gardens stood as quiet stages for new stories to unfold. Chapter 10: The Silent Shadow and the Eternal Legacy. Over the years, the curse that had silently lingered no longer remained only in the shadows. It began to move like a visible force. The stone walls of the mansions, the gardens, and the ancient corridors no longer whispered softly. They emitted an almost tangible sense of threat. Doors slammed shut on their own, windows rattled with an unseen force, and the wind's howl transformed into an ominous melody. The new generation grew under the shadow of the legacy, but mere observation was no longer enough. When a young heir opened a hidden chest, the ancient jewel and map inside led them into the secret chambers of the mansions. With every step, the stone corridors trembled, old paintings seemed to move, and the shadows on the walls stretched and contracted. Heartbeats quickened, breaths caught. The curse was no longer silent. It had become an active presence. A light appeared in the mansion's corridors. Rapidly moving shadows seemed to follow them. Gasping for breath, the young heir fled up ancient steps, the stone floors creaking beneath them, pursued by an invisible force through rooms filled with shadows. Each step became both a discovery and a struggle for survival. Outside in the gardens, the wind intensified. Ancient trees threatened to collapse, and leaves were tossed into the sky. The markings on the map guided them to a secret door. Upon opening it, they found old letters, jewelry, and forgotten documents. Yet the papers contained dark illustrations revealing the curse's power and the details of past tragedies.
In that moment, a whisper echoed, "You wish to find me, but you will pay the price." The young heir barely understood before the shadows swiftly closed in. The mansions were no longer a silent stage of history. They had become a living, moving labyrinth filled with threat. But the discovery and action did not end there. As they fled from the secret chambers, They narrowly avoided falling down a stone staircase, surviving only thanks to quick reflexes. Each new step heightened the tension, revealing secrets while showing the curse's active power. The mansion's silence had given way to a dramatic, tense quiet. Every corner, every shadow now held potential danger. And in that moment, the young heir realized the curse was not only testing the family, it was waiting to test them as well. All the legacy, all the secrets, all the cursed shadows had converged, pulling them into the dark cycle of history and fate. The silent shadow had now become fully visible, active, and an uncontrollable force.
Chapter 11. The End of the Shadows and the Last Echoes of the Legacy. For centuries, the silent shadow and the curse had quietly persisted, and now they were taking their final steps on the stage of history. The manors, gardens, stone paths, and old rooms silently preserved all memories of the past. The family was gone, the new heirs had been tested, and the mysterious documents and lost relics had been returned to their places. Yet the legacy was not entirely gone. The silent echoes of the past continued to live within every stone, shadow, and rustle. As the townspeople passed down the stories they had whispered for years to the new generations, they also imparted a lesson. Power and wealth may come with a curse. Never underestimate the silent shadow. The story was no longer just one of fear. It had become a warning and a source of wisdom. The last visitors wandering the manors felt the soft rustling and slow movements of shadows in the old rooms and stone corridors. But now, these movements were no longer an active threat. They were gentle reminders of the past. The curse had reached its peak and had become a part of history. In the gardens, the wind blew softly. Leaves fell slowly. All the lost pieces, old documents, and forgotten objects quietly rested in their places, recalling the stories of the past and the effects of the curse. An invisible silence now enveloped the manors. The shadows silently carried the tragedies, secrets, and warnings of the past. And in that moment, observers realized that the curse had ended. The silent shadow was no longer active. The legacy lived on only in stories and old documents. The family's tragedies, lost relics, and hidden secrets remained as part of history, quietly persisting, but no longer threatening anyone.
Now, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and feel the silence of the manors, gardens, and stone paths. Every detail, every quiet moment is the final echo of the legacies and the curse's enduring influence throughout history. The story ends here, yet the shadows of the past, their silent reminders and legends, will live on in memory forever. Quietly, slowly, take a deep breath. Even though everything has ended, the echoes of history and legacy will always remain. The silent shadow now rests in peaceful watchfulness, standing as the quiet witness of the past.